everybody. Welcome to the Touchdown Club. I'm going to call on Matt Bailey with the FCA for our opening prayer. Matt. Shh.
Quiet now. All right, let's pray. God, thank you so much for today, for the beautiful weather, for the chance to gather, fellowship, and celebrate all the great stuff that's happening in our schools, and specifically these coaches and athletes. And we thank you for just the way that you love us and provide for us. Thank you for the food that you've given us. Would you use it to bless and nourish our bodies? We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, have your seats. Filling in for Kevin Selman today is Tommy Price with the Gary Harper Memorial Pick'em Contest. Come on up, Tommy.
How y'all doing today? I'll try to take Kelvin's spot. He's doing graduation for AU today, and y'all have watched him do a graduation. It's amazing to pronounce that many names, and he never misses a beat, so we sure do miss him. But this first week, we had 27 Pick'em players. The last man standing game of the week was Florida State at Miami. 27 out of 27 got it right. The upsets, according to the Pick'em sheets last week, were Syracuse over Georgia Tech, Mississippi State over LSU. How about them Tigers? And Kansas State over Oklahoma. There were a few interesting picks this week. We had 15 players pick all 6 high school games correctly. Now, I don't see Will Bates here. Will is a West Side guy, but to you Hannah folks, he's the only one that picked against y'all last week. So we'll get Will when we see him. But and Hannah won't beat the Woodmont Wildcats 35-10. As far as the breakdown, it was a great week for most all pickers. I think it's a fairly easy schedule. We had 2 players at 18-2, Tony Stevens and Buddy Warnock. We had 9 players at 17-3. We had 4 players at 16-4. And for the rest of us, it went south from there. Now, for our loser and winner of the week, we had 4 folks at an awful 13-7. Ralph Little, Joe Hanlon, and of course Dickie Smith. You know, Dickie's going to be there. That's a given. But since Dickie isn't here this week, our fearless leader, club president, Chris Sullivan, is the loser of the week and gets a porcelain toilet from Kyle Oxford Farm. Thank you, Chris. You worked hard on that, didn't you? I was just glad you instead of me and I have to read my own name. This week, by the way of that's our $50 winner of the week with a 19-1 record. And this is Kevin Selman's words. The man, the myth, the living legend himself, Mr. Cobb Oxford. Congratulations, Cobb. Thank y'all. Good luck to everybody tonight.
Thank you, Tommy. Good job. All right, now for that moment that we all look so forward to every week. The players of the week. The jokes of the week. None other than Coach Jim Frazier.
Thank you, George. The last Erskine coach I heard was in 1955. His name was Dode Phillips. He came in with those first fleet of airplanes. I understand y'all had over there. Dode Phillips, you remember him?
I know the name.
Yes, sir. Boy, I am so uncomfortable. I apologize for last week's joke. Somebody told me it was not only in poor taste and lewd and egregious, it was not even funny. So let's start out with the guy sitting in his easy chair, and his wife comes by and slaps him across the cheekbone. And he said, "What was that for?" "I'll tell you what that's for. That's for this note I found in your pocket with the with the name Betty Lou on it." He says, "Betty Lou's not a woman. Betty Lou is a horse. I bet on Betty Lou last week, and I'm gonna bet on her again." And so she said, "Okay, I'm sorry." So 2 days later, she comes by and smacks him again. "Now, what was that for?" This is JV joke, so you don't have to laugh. Let's laugh. "What was that for?" She said, "Your horse just called." Guy comes out of his house after a night of carousing around in the debauchery. He starts to get in his pickup truck. He sees a half-open bottle of Jim Beam. He says, "Jim Beam, you are the root of all my troubles. You have cost me my wife, my job, and my dignity. I'm going to throw you as far." What do you say, Jim? You say you're sorry? We got some very good teams in the area. I'm too bent over this. We have got some very good teams in the area. We had 5 winners. The 5 out of 8, the one did not play Crescent because of the virus, and the 2 teams that lost to in-school teams, in-county schools. Our offensive player of the week from West Side, only a sophomore, Hunter Pickett. He is 6'3", 235-pound sophomore. He's a running back and an outside linebacker. He had 87 rushing yards for 2 touchdowns. He also had a pick 6 for a touchdown as Westside demolished easily 45-0. So bring it on up here, Hunter Pickett. Hunter, you have any visitors with you? Okay. Our offensive lineman comes from BHP. His name is Jackson Hill, 6'3", 305 pounds. Only a junior. Jackson graded out at 90% and had an incredible 11 knockdown blocks and a 29-7 win over Pendleton. So from BHP, offensive lineman Jackson Hall. We're happy to have with Jackson today his mom and dad, Kristen and Jeremy. Would y'all stand up, please, and let folks take a look at you. Kristen and Jeremy. We have a defensive player of the week, and he's co-defensive player. He is Will Stringer from TL High, 5'9", 170-pound junior linebacker. Old West had 8 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 block punt for a touchdown as Hannah smacked Woodmont 35-10. He's a second generation Hannah player. Your dad, Will Stringer, was on Hannah's first championship soccer team. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're happy to have Will's parents with him today. Robin and Will. Are we talking about Will? He's right here. Stand up, please, Will. And yeah. Also, his 2 sisters, Nina and Nilla. And also his position coach, Derek, you don't get to stand up, Derek Hostetter. I'm getting used to my new surroundings, y'all. That's why all right, so we got another a defensive player. He is Malik Woodruff of Wren. Malik is 5'11", 190 pounds. He's a junior linebacker. He had 13 tackles, a forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. He also had a fumble return for a touchdown as Wren beat Clover 23-21. Come up here, Malik Woodruff. We're happy to have with Malik his dad and mom, Sherry and Shavis. Would y'all stand up, please? Our defensive lineman of the week is from Palmetto, Dawson Leslie. Dawson is 5'11", 185 pounds. He's a senior. He's a defensive end and an outside linebacker. He had 11 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss. As Palmetto won a backyard brawl with Powdersville. So come up here, Dawson Leslie. Our coach of the week has been getting so many accolades lately, which he certainly deserves. Is Jeff Tate is the state championship coach of 4A, of course, and he is also our coach of the week. He played Clover, who lost only 2 games last year, and was a contender in 5A football. And so, back for the upteenth time, our coach of the week, Jeff Tate of Wren. What is it? Who gave him that?
TTI.
See? I don't have the schedule, so I'll just sit there. Thank you, everybody.
Congratulations, folks. And Coach, congratulations, you got that Ryobi award back there. That's good. That's good. Okay. Got a trivia question. Oh, by the way, I want to, Jeff told me that last week, Greg, Jeff's your brother. He told me last week, we didn't have but 45 people here or something, but he had several hundred that watched it online. So that's good. I didn't know exactly how many several hundred, but several hundred.
They all like my joke.
Right. They did. They liked Coach Frazier's joke. Now, I got a trivia question for you. What college in South Carolina is the only college to have a winning record against Florida State?
That would be Erskine College.
Erskine.
College.
Erskine College.
Erskine College University.
That's right. In 1948, I think it was. And Erskine has not lost a football game since 1951. All right. To introduce our speaker, we got the athletic director at Erskine here, Mark Peeler. And Mark was a basketball coach there for many years, men's basketball coach. He is now the interim women's basketball coach too. So come on up, Mark.
So after over a decade of trying to bring football back to Erskine, in the August of 2018, our Board of Trustees finally gave in to the badgering that I'd been putting on them, and they agreed to let us start football. I spent all those 10 years thinking about all the things that needed to be done, and then when they told me that we could do it, I didn't really know what to do. So I knew the best place to start would be to find the right coach and to know that whoever was going to lead our program would have an incredible task. If you've been to Due West, you know it's a really rural place. We're a Christian school, so there's a lot of obstacles in today's world with trying to start any program, especially a football program, at a place like Erskine. So we had to find the right person, and so I remember sitting down right after that Board of Trustees approval and thinking about what it was we were looking for. And obviously we had to find a man that was faith-based and was willing to share his faith with his team so we could start our program the right way as a mission-fit program at our school. We had to find somebody that was really tough, and no offense to any of the if there's offensive coaches in the room, but I knew at that point it would probably have to be somebody with an experienced defensive background as a coach, because those guys are typically really hardcore. And then we would just have to find somebody that was willing not to accept any obstacles, because we knew we had a ton of obstacles. We didn't know anything about a pandemic at that point that would really create the obstacles. But I think everything we were looking for, we found in our head coach that we have. And in the past, since we hired him, I think it was October of 2018, we recruited 130 kids to play not to play last year, but to come redshirt last year in our program. Then we recruited 170 more for this fall for what we thought was going to be our inaugural season, which that hasn't happened yet. We're looking forward to that possibly happening in the spring. But Shap Boyd has definitely been the right fit at Erskine at the right time, and he's overcome a lot. But one thing that he has going for him now, he's been our football coach for 2 years, and he has not lost a game. And there's not many coaches that can say that after they've been at a school for 2 years. We're hoping that he can still say that in May of this year. But yeah, I'd like to introduce the first football coach at Erskine since 1951. Shap Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Peeler. My math may be really bad, but according to his numbers, we've got 300 players running around there. Last time I checked, we're not even close to that. But anyway, I'm just going to start this thing. It's about, I don't know, it's not very long. I'll just give you a brief intro. And unfortunately, that's about as big as we're going to get it right now, but it's just football's already having a huge impact here on this campus.
There's a vibrancy that I haven't witnessed in my 21 years here. It's been a surreal feeling to see this all come to life. Football's been something I've wanted to see at Erskine since I was a student here 20 years ago, and to see it finally coming to fruition here. Changed the school environment, it's changed the culture in a positive way.
It's just one more nice thing about Erskine that people on the outside see.
Just the sheer volume of kids that we have on campus. Anytime you bring more energy and enthusiasm to a campus, it's a positive thing.
The growth of this program will affect the Erskine family. It's going to affect the Erskine community.
Everybody's pretty excited. The community has really supported us in this first step. We're going to be ready to put on a show and ready to perform.
I've had people even ask me for tickets already, so there's a lot of interest in how they can be a part of it. It's rare that you get the opportunity to launch anything.
Now we are truly gearing up for the fall.
As this dream unfolds,
We're all really excited.
because we're going to do football the Fleet way.
Football,
This is going to be football
the Fleet way.
The Fleet Way.
the Fleet way.
This is going to be football the Fleet Way.
We were trying and get our AV people to put a postponed in the middle there, but we I couldn't figure out how to get that done. So anyway, you know, the one thing I think that we're having to do right now is the number one thing everyone's doing is I call it INA, improvise and adjust. And I learned that when I was a graduate assistant a few years back with Jerry Claiborne at Kentucky. And that's just kind of what this world has become right now, because you start making plans and tomorrow things change. And you got to be willing to go with the flow. And that's really what we're kind of talking to our guys about right now, is going with the flow. And the flow is fixing to change. Don't worry about it. We'll adjust and we'll move on and we'll do the things we got to do. But right now we currently have about 150 players on campus. And it's a collection of truly freshmen and redshirt freshmen. I mean, we're not doing this through JUCOs. We're not doing this through, I mean, there are some kids that that do want to come back that are a little bit older, but probably as far as kids that are not freshmen or redshirt freshmen in the program right now, I would say we have less than 20. I'd say 10, 15 kids that are upperclassmen in some way, shape, or form. So, and a couple of those kids came in last year, so they've had kind of the kids that just came in this year, they're missing a fall. We had kids that came in last year that have been with us now a year and a half waiting to play a football game. And, the thing that I am thankful for is that I am in the state of South Carolina. There are a lot of places choosing not to play. There are a lot of places that are shutting down. There are a lot of places that are doing things that, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But I am thankful that we are in this great state. And I say that, I don't say that lightly. One thing I've discovered going around this state and recruiting is what a great football state it is, first and foremost, but just the people. I mean, the people around this state are awesome. And everywhere I go, I've been welcomed. And it's not just it's a football thing. I mean, they're just glad, they're excited about another opportunity to watch football. And it doesn't matter if it's Division III, II, and whatever it is, it's just football. I mean, like this year's got to be, in some ways, I mean, you're going to get to watch a lot more football than what you ever had in the past, because now you've got some football going on this fall, talking college ball, and then guess what? You're going to have a slate of football in the spring as well. So it's going to be a lot of football this year, and then you're going to turn right around and get going in the fall as well. So, within a year and a half's time, there's going to be a lot of football played and a lot of opportunities to watch ball. So hopefully, at some point, we're all going to be playing a little bit in the other direction. We'll be playing at Greenwood High School, and we're just looking forward to playing at this point. And I mean, really, I feel like Mike Leach. I mean, if the Green Bay Packers are available, maybe we would try. But I mean, I'm just trying to get somebody on the football field with us that's not wearing the garnet and gold. So, but so we're progressing. It's a process, and the process changes, like I said, daily, and it's something that our kids are learning to work through. And for us, it's a matter of with the social distancing and the testing and things like that. We have kids coming in and out, essentially. We have these 10 kids step back in because they've been on quarantine, and there'll be 4 or 5 others that will step out, and we just kind of keep going with it. And that's kind of where we are at this point. But the schedule for the spring, we've got 7 games on there right now, and most of them, if not all of them, are obviously people that you all, we're not playing very many people from that far away. A lot of SAC schools, Gulf South Conference schools. So anyway, it's a schedule that will look, people around will recognize people are going to be playing and whatever. So that'll kick off, I think February 27th will be our first game. there's still an outside shot we could find somebody to play us in November. But for the most part, in the fall, in small colleges, you don't have any Division II going on right now. And Division III shut down to the spring. The only people that are even playing right now are NAIA. So until you get to the FCS level. We've had plenty of FCS schools that wanted to play us, but we're not quite ready for them. We're having a hard time having a scrimmage with our own people right now. So anyway, that's in the future possibly, but not this year. So South Carolina State wanted to pay us a lot of money to go play them. So I said no, thank you. But anyway, the school has changed, but it's changed in I think in a a positive direction in the sense that Erskine's old. I mean, it's been around for a long time. There's not many schools in the country that are older than Erskine, if you want to go and do the math on that. I think 1839. So, I mean, it's been around a while, and I think at times maybe we can get a little stagnant with some things, but I do think that football coming onto campus, there has been kind of an infusion of interest, and it's not just a football thing. You've got other things that are going on. With that, you have band coming onto campus, which they have not had. You have a cheerleading group that has been kind of dormant that is coming back into action. A dance team that's been kind of, I don't know if we've ever had a dance team, so the dance team is new. So anyway, we have quite a few things that are kind of growing with it. So essentially, there's just a lot of activity on that campus. And it's something that hasn't necessarily been there, but I mean, when I first got there, I would walk around in the spring, and it was like, where'd everybody go? But to be honest with you, now it doesn't matter when I'm walking around that campus now. I mean, there is a vibrancy, there is a kind of an aura around that place, and I think that there is anticipation of what is to come. And unfortunately, we're looking down a tunnel and we're trying to find the light. And we're getting glimpses of light. We just can't, we don't have I guess now we kind of have a finish line. But again, it's a process, and I think our kids are adjusting to it. So, but it looks like in the spring we'll have 7 games. And again, that first game, February 27th, will not be a home game. Our first home game, I think, will be March 13th. So when I say home, I'm talking about Greenwood High School. So that's the plan right now, and we haven't played a game yet. We haven't done anything yet, and it is the longest preseason in the history of preseason football, as far as I can tell. I don't know that anyone's practiced for 2 years without playing a game, but I will have got, in about 2 weeks, it'll be complete 2 full years there, and I'm beginning to whatever. We're going to play at some point. That's all I know. So anyway, the facilities have come along. We have a nice weight room on campus. It's about a 3,000 square foot weight room facility, and it accommodates our players as we try and lift them. Locker rooms basically in the same building, and it's adjacent to at some point where our future stadium will be on campus, and it'll be a sports complex stadium. But the facilities on campus have come out nicely. Not exactly in the time frame that maybe I would have chosen, but it's worked out kind of like everything else is working out around. It just kind of takes a little longer at times, but we're getting there. So it's a program, I think, right now that we're starting to figure out as far as how it fits into the school. A lot of people talk about a football culture, and really, we're not trying for that. We don't want a football culture. We want our culture to fit within Erskine's culture, and that is Christ-centered. That is a big part of what we do and things we talk about, and expectations. But again, that's just part of the piece. That's just one of the pieces at our school. One of the pieces I think that make it special. The other thing is I think the people. And I talk about the people of South Carolina, but I think the people in Due West are truly genuine. I mean, it's sometimes I scratch my head at the municipality at some of the things going on, but as far as the people that live there and the ones you run into at Irene's and the ones you run into at the hardware store, and if you haven't had a donut from the Mama's Sweet Shop, then you haven't had a donut. I'm just telling you, that thing's rated, I think, in the top 5 in the Carolinas for donuts. But there's just a lot of good folks around there that are very supportive and are very interested in trying to support us in all the different ways, and we're just thankful to be there. It's a small college town, and it's exactly kind of like the small college town that I went to school in, and so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, and I think most of our kids, even though they come from some bigger places, once they settle in, they get to where they kind of feel like, this is okay. At first, they're not sure. They're coming from Atlanta, or they're coming from wherever they're coming from. It's a little bit different, but they settle in, and it ends up, they end up, in most cases, the ones that don't will leave. They'll leave, and but we'll end up with the right ones, and that'll be the case, really anywhere. But certainly at our place, kids that aren't interested will leave, and we'll just kind of go on to the next person, next man up, so to speak. So that's kind of where we are at this point. Can I answer any questions from anybody about anything?
So how do you keep them engaged practicing for 2 years? How do you do that?
Well, we're doing a lot of things right now. I mean, when I say we're not just practicing all the time. I'll give you an example. We had a couple coaches that ended up with COVID, okay? And there were two pretty important coaches, so I really had no option, but we had to shut down for, in that case, it was about 12 days. So the coaches that were there with me, we went into a conditioning mode. So essentially we kind of flipped gears and went into what we were doing more in spring football. So it isn't, in the last fall was not a true fall for those guys anyway, because they knew they weren't playing games. So I wasn't trying to, we didn't practice, for example, every weekend last fall, okay? I tried to set up certain scrimmages on certain weekends, but I also told them, you're going to have this weekend off, this weekend off, this weekend off. You can go watch Clemson, Alabama, whoever it is you want to go watch. So we tried to let them have a little bit of both. We did all that in the anticipation we were going to have spring ball, which, of course, we didn't have. And that was we were going to take the fall to kind of grow them up gently, because if you're familiar with college football, there is a change. There is a culture shock when you go from high school to college. And so our kids were being gently put into it, which was good because our school was going through a lot of change as well. Our school grew, I don't know, our athletic director could tell you more specifically, but it was at least 150, well, it was closer to 200 students last year. So it was almost a 20 to 25% growth in 1 year. And so the school was going through changes, football kids were going through changes, so everybody was kind of going through changes last fall. So that wasn't a bad thing. That wasn't a bad thing that we ended up doing a lot of that stuff. It's just that we didn't anticipate spring. No one did, but it doesn't affect the team that's been playing for 20 years like it does a team that hasn't played yet. So there was still a lot we needed to find out, which we didn't. And so now we're having to combine. We're going to have, in the next X number of weeks, we're going to have to condense and try and get the information that we would have had the spring to do along with the fall and try and figure out what we're going to be doing for the spring, essentially. So, but it's a daily tug, to be honest with you, and it's not necessarily easy. And we're trying to. This isn't going to sound right, but mind games. But I mean, as a coach, you're kind of doing that anyway. Trying to do what you kind of do to kind of keep them kind of motivated, keep them going. So we try and find little things that we can put out there for them to keep them engaged. But it's not easy. It's not easy. And there's days we go out there to practice, and you're looking around, and it's like, really? That's a good thing we're not playing right now. So, I mean, and then there's other days you're thinking, wow, it's pretty good for a team that's not practicing very much. So we get a little bit of both. But it's just it is a process. And if you're a really rigid, structured person, which most coaches tend to be, we're going through a growth process as well right now. We're having to evolve our way of thinking. And that's not always easy. It's certainly not always easy. So
You mentioned Jerry Claiborne. Who else have you worked with?
Well, I worked for Boots Donnelly, where I got started at Middle Tennessee, and then I left. And Boots, this was going back into the mid-'80s. If there's a more honorary coach in the history of college football, I don't know who he is. But I don't want to meet him, I can tell you that, because I felt like I met that person. So I was at Middle, and then I ended up going to Kentucky with Coach Claiborne. And as good a person as, I mean, he was a Bear Bryant. He played for Bear, but I mean, he was a Bear Bryant disciple, whatever. Just an awesome person. And we had a swear jar, and if anyone swear, he made sure he's going around, he's collecting. We filled up the jar daily, and he made donations to different people. He had a bar in his basement. He didn't drink a drop, he didn't cuss, he had a bar the whole length of that wall right there in the bottom of his house, and you could get all the Coca-Cola and Sprite you wanted. That was all you were going to get out of that thing. So, but just a good person. Really enjoyed my 2 years there. And I ended up spending some time up in Pennsylvania. My first full-time job was a D2 school up in Pennsylvania. I played Division III, and I always wanted to coach at the smaller level. I've had opportunities. I've interviewed and had opportunities to go to the Division I level, and it was just, that hasn't been my calling. Met my wife at Sewanee. We both went to the University of the South, and I played ball. That's actually, and Coach Peeler played there. He played basketball there, so we didn't socialize a lot. But we knew, it's one of those schools where you know the other person, you know who they are, but I mean, we didn't like hang out. But it was just, and Due West truly does remind. If you've ever been to Sewanee, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's truly a small place. I mean, we only had like one blinking light, I think, maybe. Yeah, one blinking light, wasn't even a stoplight. So, yeah. But
What percentage of your guys are in state?
80 plus. Yeah.
How
And
far away you go?
we're starting here. I mean, we had a commit last year, a defensive end from Hawaii. His dad was a pastor, and something fell through late. He ended up deciding that he's going to go to somewhere in California and play baseball. And maybe he just thought that was a much shorter flight. So I don't know, but he kind of bailed on us late. But I thought, but Hawaii, we have a couple kids from Texas. We've got quite a few from Georgia, just proximity. Very few, maybe even none from North Carolina, which kind of shocked me. I thought we would have probably some more from Carolina, but mostly South Carolina, Florida. All of our coaches have ties to Florida. We've all either coached there or been there at some point. So we do have some Florida kids, but primarily we exhaust South Carolina. We're trying to get the best we can get in South Carolina, but then at some point you run out of the academic kids. You run out of the kids that everybody wants, and then at some point you've got to be looking elsewhere too, if you're still trying to find kids with the good grades and the board scores. And I'll say that. And I can't put enough emphasis on that, is the better your grades are, the more options you will have. Because that opens up the academic schools, it opens up all the other schools as well. So, I mean, the better you can do with the academics, the better off. It just gives you many more options. It gives you much more opportunity for monies. It's just a better deal. And to be honest with you, it's a lot easier for us to coach smart kids than not smart kids. That's on the side there. I mean, it's just, sometimes out of practice, you're just kind of scratching your head. It's like, wow, I could have had a V8 on that one. I mean, it's just like, it's just, so ultimately, you do want the best you can get when it comes to the academics, and you can't impress upon that enough with the younger kids. But
Is it true that Erskine is the Harvard of the South? That's what I heard.
You've heard that. Did you start that rumor when you were there? I heard Erskine called a lot of things, actually, most of them good. So, but it is, the kids, they're not just handing out diplomas there, I will tell you that much. So, I mean, our kids are definitely challenged there. They have to work. So.
Coach, how many scholarships do y'all have available? football?
We are Division II. So Division II has 36 scholarships. So that's kind of where you are with that, and then you're trying to divvy those up. Now, ultimately, this is the reality. Right now, we're 2 years in, so we're not at that point right now, okay? But you're basically taking your monies and you're trying to just... So in Division II, just so you'll know if you're not sure, because everybody gets confused on Division I, FCS, whatever else, okay? Division I, 85 or 86 scholarships, right? Okay? They're not splitting those. They're not splitting those, okay? FCS drops down to 65 or whatever it is. They can split. They can split their monies. They can, because again, they're going to field a team that's going to be 100 or so players. Division II is the same thing. Division II now drops down to 36. And again, you're splitting monies and you're trying to beg, borrow, and steal monies from every other source you can before you start using yours. That's the reality. So if I can use the state of South Carolina's monies, if I can use the federal bank and trust that's giving out a local, scholarships, I mean, we're using anything and everything, and then we get to the Erskine monies that go on to that. And that's basically the way any and all Division II schools work, as far as that goes. So, and then Division III essentially can't give athletic monies. They give however they package their stuff, but mostly academic and whatever else. So NAIA, I coached there for 2 years and still can't tell you what they do, so that's a different animal. But they got this 2 out of 3 thing and whatever, so it just depends on the flavor of the week. So, but ultimately, Division II will have 36 scholarships.
What are y'all gonna do offensively, defensively? What's your approach?
We're gonna be spread, but we're gonna be spread to run. And I'm trying to let my offensive coordinator kind of do things that he thinks he would like to try. And I've given him very few parameters, but I told him we will be able to run the ball. And it's not going to be one of those things where we're going to spread the ball to throw and have to make a living throwing. We're going to run the ball. So how does that look? It looks like Baylor a few years back with Briles. It looks like UCF. It looks like Auburn with Gus Malzahn. It looks like, when I say UCF, I'm referring more to when Frost was there, kind of what Nebraska's doing. But it's still a little bit about what's going on there now. But that tempo stuff and tying that in. I'm a defensive guy, and I've been a defensive guy essentially my whole career. And the one thing I do know that affects defense, if you do anything all the time, it doesn't affect me. If you're going to go fast all the time, go ahead. It's when you start changing what you're doing. You go, if you can go different tempos, different speeds, that's going to affect me more. I mean, I can get used to anything. I mean, we can all get used to something. So if all you're presenting is one thing, we all figure out how we're going to handle that one thing. But if you start changing up what you're going to do and you're timely with it, that's where it's going to become important. So that's kind of what we're going to try and do offensively. Defensively, we base out of a 3-3-5. And when I say we base out of a 3-3-5, what I'm saying is, I mean, if you came and watch us, you're saying, well, it doesn't look like a 3-3-5. Well, it's going to look like a lot of things because we have to have a hybrid kid that can walk up on the ball. So we're going to be in a 4-man front. It depends on who we're playing, but we're going to be in a 4-man front a lot. But we have 5 DBs because college and a lot of the high school athletics as well, it's all come back to now isolation of athletes, putting athletes in space. It's becoming basketball on grass. Let's call it space. So you're trying to isolate athletes, and you're trying to get a ball to an athlete's hand and let them make plays. So ultimately, you have to have kids that can play in space. And so the game is shifting, or has shifted, has certainly shifted. Someone's going to come out in 21 personnel or 2 tight personnel, and people are going to look around and say, what do we do to that? I mean, they're not going to know because everyone's evolved away from it. So, I mean, ultimately, when some of that stuff comes back around, because nothing gets new, it's all reinvented. They just put they shade it a different color. It's the same stuff. But when it's been gone out of sight for a few years, it comes back around. It's like a new thing. So anyway, I don't think there's anything we're going to be doing that's going to be new. It's just hopefully going to be shaded a little differently. So, anybody else?
What are tickets going to cost for you guys?
You know, that's a good question. But I I think we're probably looking at $15, $10, $15. Now, that's for individual ticket. That's not packages and stuff like that. So, and then to get into that press box there at Greenwood, that's a different story. That's above my pay grade. So, anybody else? Well, thank you all very much for allowing me to come up here and talk a little bit about Erskine.
Thank you, Coach, and good luck down at Erskine. Hope you're going to continue to be undefeated for quite some time.
Me too.
All right. Well, that's it for us today. Next week, I think we're going to have Jeff Bostic. I talked to him, hadn't gotten a definitive word from him yet about coming next week, but I think we're going to have him. He's one of the hogs from the Redskins, if y'all will come. Y'all have a good weekend.